Good afternoon, Professor. This is student Ryan Houghtaling, and we will be taking a couple minutes to make a reflection video. So, through weeks 3 and 4, it was definitely challenging, and also a lot of eye-opening measures or ideas were taken into consideration. These past couple weeks really helped me transition from the basic firefighting module or train of thought that I'm used to and incorporate, like we have been going over, the all hazards response and risk assessments that we're willing to make. So just especially in that matrix, it really helped out with looking at, hey, we do provide more than just emergency medical supply or emergency medical services, structural capabilities, and hazmat, motor vehicle accident stuff. We're in the business to reduce risk and make the community as safe as possible. And it's oftentimes neglected, I think, during day-to-day operations because we're always training for the structural fires, the ladder operations, the high-angle rescues, you name it, but we're not really putting the legwork in to prevent or prepare as much as we can for the catastrophic events that can occur in our community. And honestly, that's what it's all about. So one thing that really hit me pretty good was the New Orleans Katrina hurricane with the levees and the pre-event, post-event, and event operations that can happen. So yeah, we know that the levees misfired or were not engineered correctly, and that was a huge downfall to what wiped out a lot of New Orleans. That's something that we look at as a department and say, okay, did we fail? Is there something that we could have done to flag it or to better prevent that levee from failing? Because when you look at it, obviously it was a catastrophic hurricane, and here we are again with Hurricane Dorian coming through Florida, and the Bahamas unfortunately got hit pretty hard, and just hoping that all the legwork and the community reduction strategies and the plans for the shelters and the federal aid and everything is executed as good as possible to make sure that we can keep everyone as safe as possible. So when we talked about the demographics for this lesson, it was actually really interesting to me. One of those things that, once again, we're not really too focused on, but we tend to focus on more risks, physical risks, and don't analyze that demographics can have certain risks as well. So looking at cultural influences, religious practices, societal norms can obviously impact the amount of risk that we're willing to accept each day. And the acceptable and non-acceptable risks are something that analyzing was actually pretty good. I actually drew a pretty contrasting conclusion between risks we're willing to take as a citizen and risks that we're willing to take as a first responder or a firefighter. I think the Air Force uses the slogan, accept no unnecessary risk, and I believe in that in both my day-to-day life and when I'm on the fire ground. I think if you don't need to put yourself at risk for something, why would you? So it's just simple as putting a seatbelt on, going the speed limit, wearing a helmet when you wear a bicycle. There's no risk involved, So that was actually a really eye-opening module just to see that it kind of gets swallowed up in everyday life. Not everyone thinks about that stuff until it's too late, and that's unfortunate. But that's the business that we're in, and that's what keeps us on our toes. We don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and the mechanism, imagery, nature. We really just don't know. So that was a pretty good lesson to fall back on, and then even the code enforcement, talking about, like I said, with the effects that you can have on the community is something I never even thought of. And as I'm transitioning through this course and another course, I'm really looking at the fire prevention aspect of the department and seeing how I can build upon that and see if I can make my way into there and just really get influenced by the prevention side of the house, because the code enforcement, the community involvement is really imperative. One example I'm going to use is in Washington, there's been some burn bans that have affected religious or political beliefs for the Native Americans, which is obviously not necessarily an impingement of the Constitution, but for safety standpoint, it's definitely a tricky and difficult decision to make to put put yourself in to make the decision. So things like that are just something that more people need to be aware of, that hey, we do maybe just go to work one day on, one day off, come home, but our actual evaluations and thoughts and decisions do have long-lasting effects on the community, and it's important to keep that in mind when you're looking for the community's approval, or just to build a nice rapport with the community, so that way they can trust you. So I hope you liked my video. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to doing another one in Module 6. Take care.